Well, good afternoon and welcome to Launch. I'm Brian Cedars, pastor at First United Methodist Church Elkins. For those of you that I might not know, each and every one is welcome to the broadcast today. Glad that you are with us, even if you were joining us later in the day or week. Welcome all. We're going to begin right away with a trivia question as some folks are tuning in live. Here we go with our first trivia. What famous queen came to visit Solomon? We're talking about Solomon this week. All the trivia applies to him. One more time. What famous queen came to visit Solomon? You can text in your answer and send it along. That would be great. Now for some good humor to help us laugh today. Lois, you said you live off the spat of the land. Don't you mean the fat of the land? Glenn, no, I'm a marriage counselor. Oh, I got to use that one again sometime. One more, just in case that didn't trip your fancy. Fred, don't you wish life were like television? Ted, I can't answer that now. Fred, why not? Ted, I'm on a commercial break. Oh, that's the best one yet, wouldn't you say? Well, let's try one more. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to press my luck. Think of MTV the way that you used to know MTV. Now it's mostly drama, used to be a lot music. Well, this was what somebody mentioned. What do you get if you cross MTV with flower beds? Rock gardens. Get it? Rock music gardens. Oh, okay, I'll leave that all behind. Let's go to our passage. This is another exciting passage. We are looking at some of the more well-known proverbs written by Solomon mostly, but also some other contributors to the Proverbs. We know that Solomon wrote 3,000 Proverbs according to 1 Kings. And this is the one we're looking at today, chapter 22, verse 6. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Now, I have a questioning mind, so this is the first thing that I bring to this passage, a question. Is this verse a guarantee that children will remain faithful to God even in adulthood? If everything is done right, is it a guarantee that they will remain faithful? Well, I look at this, first of all, by what experience tells us. We have seen parents do virtually everything right in bringing up their children with Christian values, and yet their children drift or fall away from the faith later. We've also seen the opposite. Parents who have made tremendous mistakes and their children still cling to their faith or find faith later. So this verse does not always seem to ring true. So what do we make of that? Is the Bible wrong here? Has it stated an untruth? Well, I think we need to take a closer look at this verse. First of all, the Hebrew word for train means to dedicate. In this context, it means narrowing or channeling a child's energy into his or her future vocation. Back then, apprenticeship started very young. A child began to train early for his or her career. Of course, a female's career was limited typically to housekeeping duties. Boys, though, would usually train in the footsteps of their father. Whatever their father did, they tended to do. This is one reason why Jesus was thought to be a carpenter, since his father was a carpenter. But let me mention a little side note here. The word translated carpenter in the Bible is the Greek word teknon. And teknon is a more technical word, but also a more general word. It tended to stand for any sort of general contractor. which would, of course, include carpenter, but it also could include stonemason. Having traveled the Holy Land just a bit, I was surprised by the tremendous lack of wood there, but the overabundance of stone or rock. So it's quite possible that Joseph's main profession was as a stoneworker, a builder. Might seem a little different to think of it that way, but that's just a side note, something to kind of mull over and think about. Doesn't change the story any. Probably Joseph still had the carpenter ability as well. Back to the passage at hand. Training up a child in the way he should go is literally training up in his way. The intention is not righteous living, but the way he is to spend the rest of his life as it applies to vocation. Remember, responsibilities for vocation started early. Let's also remember a moment what a proverb is. It is a generalized truth and not necessarily an absolute truth. The proverb must be viewed through the lens of free will. Thus, the proverb is always conditional on a person's right to choose. A child can choose to receive training or choose not to. A child could grow up and choose to do the family vocation or perhaps choose not to. We all have free will, the right to choose to follow or not to follow.